So, second car show out of the way, and tonight's park up is another free air in a place called Tour-en-Sologne, which I've been to many times, normally in the winter on the way down to Spain. Several times, I can't remember how many, 4 or 5 times anyway. It's a very quiet little village. There's only a baker's and a bar and not much else, to be honest. Might be a hairdresser's. But the reason I like it is A, it's quiet. B, you've got all your usual motor caravan stuff. There's a bourne, water drainage, bins, but also washing up sinks, water, toilets, wash hand basins. The full Monty. Now it's only 4 o'clock and there's 3 of us here at the minute. You see a pilote hiding behind there. But I'm pretty certain that come tonight, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, this place will be completely full. It's a very popular spot because it's beautiful. You've got a park behind, you've got a picnic spot, lovely place. And although the village has not that much of interest, directly across the road where we're heading now, oh, traction of horse. Look at that, just cross the road and there's a traction. Would you believe it? Amazing. Anyway, back to the church. It doesn't look anything too special at first glance, and the inside, to be fair, is old but not that spectacular. But this was built in the 1100s, so not long after William the Conqueror was fighting as the Norman invader in England, they were building this church. And the portico is the best bit, really. It is a proper ancient historic monument, but the portico is the best bit because the woodwork, hopefully it's not too dark, the woodwork is just superb. It's wonderful. The age just oozes out of every pore of that wood. It's wonderful, wonderful old church. Inside, you lose some of that age. Obviously the stonework's been redone. The woodwork, the camera's struggling with the light in here. The woodwork's been pinned, metalwork added, and even some of the beams that have been supported have themselves got metalwork in them, which makes me think they've also been replaced. But yeah, nice old place. Right, I've moved on from last night's free stopover, not come very far, to another place I regularly visit, Châtillon-sur-Indre, which is famous for the donjon, which is should be just behind me. You can see it, 11th century. No, 12th century, sorry, 1100s. And the town is built around its base, and lots of it have changed very little, really. There are lots of houses here dating back to the 15th century. It's a quiet little place now. It did go through a period where things were getting very run down, but fortunately it seems to have picked up again. The pedestrian centre is old and cobbled. Just a nice place to hang out for a day while I sort out some domestic issues before moving on. So let's take a walk down some of these smaller streets. The Office to Tourism is quite an old building itself, and in the back of it is an even older medieval tower. And then across the way there are a series of very tall roofed medieval buildings, probably 1500s would have thought. Very impressive. Some of the stonework possibly predates that even. Some crumbly old smaller buildings, and the town has a circuit touristique, so you can walk around and see all the historical bits. Steep little alley leading down to the church. The remains of an overhanging balcony, I suppose. Right, although this bit looks quite old, it's actually a 17th century addition. The tower of the Tourist Information Office is just on the other side of this. It dates back to the 12th century and is known locally as the Plantagenet Tower. So obviously connected to the royal family of England at the time as well. Of course, bits of France were constantly being exchanged around this time between the two nations. Some nice shuttered old buildings. Again, they probably date back to about the 1700s. Given the age of the town and the castle, the church, although substantial, looks to be an awful lot later. It's also shut, so I can't... Oh, there's a plaque. Oh, that's handy. I was going to say, so I can't get inside to check how old it is. But I just spotted a beige plaque on the beige walls. Ah, so it does date back to the 12th century. Let's see what it says. Right, so it claims it stood here from the 12th century. Didn't become a parish church till 1791. So, a collegial church, as it says. And it must have been rebuilt because there are bits missing. There are chunks missing of what would have been an arch at the front. Some of the carvings look very old, but the rest of it has been heavily redone at some point. And there's quite a few small alleyways with some interesting bits and pieces, like a communal water pump with stone trough. And then some more old houses across the road. The roof on this one's absolute classic. It appears to be collapsing in several places, especially around a chimney. Right, and this is where I'm staying. It was the Camping Municipal, but it ceased being that a couple of years ago. I can't remember if it was pre-COVID. It might even have been pre-COVID. Anyway, it's now part of the camping park chain where you buy a lifetime card and then you pay per night and everything's automated through these boxes at the entrance. I mean, the system's very quick, very simple. It's €12.50 to stay the night. You have all the same facilities during the season, May to October, as you had when it was a municipal campsite. So there's hot showers, toilets, everything you need basically. Electricity, all included in that price. So perfectly reasonable. The downside, of course, is that the people who worked here no longer have a job. Certainly not here. But the upside is, because it's automated, you can gain access 24 hours a day and 365 days a year, which, given that this used to be one of my stopping points again on the route down to Spain, Portugal, the south basically, the heat. When I was looking for heat, being open in winter is very good news. I can only assume, like so many small campsites, dropping numbers have caused them to have to go to these automated services. At the minute, and it's probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's only 2 of us. Transit tucked in there and something over there, French A-class. Now it's a big place. I don't know how many it holds, probably 50 slots. And there's 2 of us, and it's the 19th of September. So it's quiet. And that's probably what's done them in. Anyway, it's good for me. I like it. It's a nice little town. And for a one-night stay, an afternoon and a night stay, absolutely ideal. Right, I'm in Valençay, which is famous for its chateau. A brief glimpse of some part of it you can see here. It also has a free air, which is very popular, as you can see. Not to my taste, these ones that are like this, because you're just crammed in. I prefer ones in smaller towns or out in the country. But anyway, this here is free. It's a nice town, but there's something else you want to see that's even more important. Right, I've moved up to the Loire because I've got a couple of days to kill before show number 3, and I've just stopped at Saint-Benoît, which is where Benedict founded his monastery. I believe his remains are here as well. And of course, what would you expect to find but 2CV right outside. Heavy flare from the sun, I'm afraid. Let's see if we can move a little bit closer. The weather has been unbroken sunshine so far, every single day. Cold at night, because we're into the later end of September now. But unbroken sunshine, there we are. That's a bit better. An imposing edifice. The Benedictine Library and the monastery artisanat, so workshop. Let's have a look. Once again, externally it doesn't look that old. There are some carvings which some of them are worn and some of them look like new. Anyway, I suspect the front end was added in about the 1840s when a lot of work was done. Then the older bit lies within. Now, we're dating back to about the 11th century for parts of this place, so old. And the abbey itself was founded in 660 apparently, so very, very old. And the bones of the saint were brought here, and they came from Monte Cassino in Italy. So this doorway looks a bit older, so let's have a quick look at that. Vaulted doorway protected by a wooden roof. Yeah, impressive. It reminds me of a really fantastic little place, which is now very, very touristy, but was empty when I went donkeys years ago. A place called Conques, which has a fantastic carved doorway like this. And I sheltered inside the church with Elizabeth to avoid a very heavy thunderstorm, and the inside of the church was pitch black, lit by candles, and there were a group of monks chanting in the corner, which were just surreal experiences, like being back in the Middle Ages. It was very, very moving in many ways. But anyway, let's look inside the church. In fact, let's see if we can find out when that doorway was made. Wow. That portal was made in 1170, and pilgrims used to come through this entrance to venerate the remains of St. Benedict. So that's one old doorway, 1,000 years old nearly. This floor was originally designed and made in Ravenna, in Italy. A great place full of some wonderful Byzantine mosaics, by the way, but anyway, disregarding that. And it was designed and fabricated in 1020, so it is now over 1,000 years old. In the subsequent 1,000 years, it's been moved 3 times. There's a plaque on the wall just where I've been a second ago, which celebrates the fact that Saint Joan of Arc came here with the French king before her march to Rheims, or Rheims as the French call it. So, fascinating history, fascinating building in this part at the end. Definitely looks its age, unlike the portico. And then just a short distance down from Saint-Benoît, there is Sully with its fantastic chateau, surrounded by a large moat. There is a free air here, but I won't be staying because I've got 2 days to kill. So I'm going to have to go in a campsite, get power. But we'll have a little walk around Sully and see what we can find. The van's over there. In the old days, just on the other side of the van by the river, there used to be a campsite, but sadly it's gone. Fabulous building, and not a cloud in the sky again. Original 104, parked up on the streets. Looks like a normal working car, and all the better for it. It's GL, very nice. I've moved on just about 5 miles north of Loire to a small village. You might be able to just see the van over there in the trees. It's next to a river, which is on the left here, which has been canalised partially through the village, which lies over there. It's slightly greyer this morning. It's early still, but it's definitely chill. But a very beautiful place, and incredibly cheap. It was €6 a night, including electric, which, given I paid nearly €5 just for electric at the last place, is a remarkably good value. Anyway, let's take a walk up to the village and see what we can see. Right, now the footpath by the canal runs all the way to Montargis, 30 miles north, which is just south of Paris. So this canal presumably would at one point have gone up to Paris and then connected down to the Loire. The canal is still used by pleasure boats. There's one over there moored up, and last night there was a wide-bodied barge flying a Scottish flag, a French flag, and the red duster, which is all a bit confusing. But anyway, and when I went for a walk at the other side of the campsite late on last night, there was another one coming in the opposite direction, coming up this way. So not exactly heavily frequented by boats, but there are a few using it nonetheless. Very fleury bridge. And then this car park immediately next to the canal is marked at the entrance as an aide-de-camping car, but it's not on my app, which, although the campsite is very cheap and well worth every penny, out of season this would be a good one. Quiet, public toilets over there, level, and by a canal. So I must remember this place for future use. The town is very quiet. There are 2 bars, both shut. There's a baker's that's obviously been shut for a very long time, a pharmacy which closes for good in 6 days' time, and then I've been told there's another bakery up the top which I'll go and look at. One of the great things about these small French villages though is they often throw up things like this. Carved wooden heads in the timbers. How wonderful. Now, further down the Loire, on the western side of Orleans, in one of the villages there are 2 houses next to each other, exactly like this, same carving, all the rest of it, have been dated back to Henry VIII. And looking at the style of hat worn by the figurehead on the right, this probably dates from around the same period. And there's a cat in the window.